Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Halftime Oranges. Today, we've got 4 days before the start of the Premier League season. We're going to be talking about transfers. Joining me is Clive.
Evening, everybody.
And we have Stefan.
Good evening.
All right, fellas, straight into it. Alphabetically, we're going to start with Arsenal. Stefan, what do you make of their transfers so far this season?
So I think this is a big season of transition for Arsenal. I think this is Arteta's third season, his second full season at the club. And there seems to be a movement towards youth players now. So they spent 75 million on the likes of Tavares, Lokonga. But the bulk of that fee has gone on Ben White from Brighton, which I think is an excellent acquisition. It's a player that Brighton could have sold last year for around 30 million to Leeds and Man United, or Liverpool were rumoured at the time. And they've held out, and Arsenal paid big money. Obviously, he's been called up to the international setup, which I think would have aided the move. And for me, he's very much like David Luiz without the mistakes, if you like. So he will push Arsenal 10 yards up the pitch. He can also play central midfield, but I don't think he'll be used there. So I think he's an excellent signing. I think it goes along with their current policy of youth players, if you like. So if you think of the likes of Smith Rowe, Saka, Tierney, I think White is going to fit in well with that. But for me, I think I'm a bit worried about the amount of leaders in that team. I think some of the older heads in there, they've got rid of players like Ozil and Mustafi and Socrates in recent windows. But if you've got to think Arsenal finished 8th last year, and what they're pushing for is the Champions League, I don't know if just signing Ben White and a couple of younger players will allow them to progress when other teams are also strengthening as well.
Yeah, I'll answer that question for you. They're not going to get anywhere near the Champions League. Nowhere near it. Absolutely not. With signing just Ben White and signing, like you said, Tavares and Lokonga, Arsenal fans are going to be furious with this window as it stands. Absolutely furious.
I think selling Willock's gone to Newcastle as well, stay for about 20 million.
Yeah.
Now, is that possibly going to fund them to try and come in for James Maddison again? Odegaard's also linked with them from Real Madrid. They lack that creativity, and I think, from an Arsenal perspective, they've got to kind of make their minds up as to how they're going to structure their front line. They've got three very good players in terms of Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette, but they rotate them a lot. Now, they've not got European football this season. That might help them out, but they need to pick a duo going forward. I suspect Aubameyang to be one of them, and Arteta's got to make a decision who he's going to go with. Pepe was outstanding in the last 10 games or so for Arsenal. He bagged about 7 goals and a few assists towards the end of last season. Lacazette blows a bit hot and cold, little bit injury prone. I'd be going with Pepe and Aubameyang up front, to be honest. The first game of the season against Brentford, for sure.
I think a lot of Arsenal fans wanted Lacazette to go. I think they thought his time at Arsenal was up now. They don't see, if they're going to play a 3, you can't really play Lacazette on the wing.
Well, he's trying to accommodate too many people, isn't he?
That's the issue. Yeah, of course.
Aubameyang playing on the wing a lot last season and frustrated a lot of Arsenal fans as well last season. And he's not quite performed. Also, Aubameyang, since he's got this new contract. I mean, they're lacking something there, Arsenal, and there's still time to go. I mean, Maddison's a possibility, but I can't see Leicester letting him leave for a play less than 6. Well, I mean,
how do you feel about that?
As a Leicester City fan, I mean, Maddison's done very well, but I mean, he has had a couple of injuries. He's had a dodgy hip in recent seasons. He's had one or two operations to heal that. I mean, he's a very influential player when he's on his game. There are certain games where he does tend to just coast, and unfortunately, these things don't come off for him. I mean, there was that point where he was kind of rivaling Grealish for that spot in the England squad, and I think that opportunity is well and truly sort of gone for him for the foreseeable now. I think there's question marks about his attitude. Yes, he comes across very well in interviews, but does he apply himself properly in terms of how he looks after himself? Away from the pitch, away from the training ground? Is he doing the right things and mixing with the right people? There was that incident with just before West Ham where there was a house party arranged by him and a few other players, and tension potentially between Rodgers and Maddison. But the facts are, I mean, there's a couple of weeks to go before the end of this transfer window. Leicester don't need to sell, and they won't be selling unless they can organise a replacement, that's for sure.
All right, well, let me put it this way. Would you be sad to see Maddison go?
Not for 60 million, no.
Really?
Anything Yeah, anything
Really?
less. But then again, like I said, a replacement needs to be sought,
Yeah.
and if he does go and a replacement doesn't come in, that will massively affect us. I mean, Leicester City are fighting on 3 or 4 fronts this season. I think they've got to be one of the top 5 or 6 favourites for Europa League, to be perfectly honest. You get out of that group in Europa League, then you've got a chance. And Leicester City certainly have strengthened well this season. We'll come to their additions a little bit later on.
Well, one of the rumours I've heard, being a United fan, is that if Maddison does go to Arsenal, then Jesse Lingard will be the one Rodgers goes for.
Could be a good option, Jesse Lingard. Yeah, I could see that happening. Yeah, whether United would want... I mean, there's going to be clubs now. It's a bit... Leicester in a bit of a dangerous position. There's going to be clubs now seeing Leicester as a direct threat to their top 4 potential, because Leicester have been there or thereabouts. Now, are Manchester United going to sanction a sale to a team that's been on the fringes of the top 4 all season? I'm not so sure they would. And Lingard looks quite happy at Manchester United now.
So he says he wants to fight for his spot, but if the money's right, I'd be happy to see him go.
For Lingard, he seems happy at Man United now. He's had some personal problems as well, which affected him, and he needed to get away and actually just concentrate on his football. Rodgers would be a great manager for him. But
I do agree with that.
I can't see Jesse Lingard leaving Manchester United, at least not until the next transfer window, if at all.
Well, let's find out. All right, moving on now to Aston Villa. Big news, of course. One of the biggest transfers that's happened over the summer. Jack Grealish is gone for, I have to say, a ridiculous amount of money. I'm putting that out there. A ridiculous amount of money. £100 million. Now, is he a good acquisition for City? Yes. Is he going to bolster their squad? Yes. Is he worth £100 million? Absolutely not. To me, £100 million is Salah or Son or Mane. It is not Jack Grealish. So I think Villa have done absolutely superb in getting £100 million for Jack Grealish. I'm sorry, he's going to be playing in and out of that City squad. He's not going to be a starter.
I think that when Man City are concerned, you don't even look at the fee anymore. Do you know?
I agree with that, but I'm just saying for Villa, £100 million is an amazing amount of money.
Yeah,
you are right. You are right in saying that City numbers don't even seem to matter anymore. But for Villa to get £100 million for Jack Grealish is spectacular. Spectacular.
Well, the owners have come out and said that was a release clause because they thought it wouldn't be met, and then they could almost believe their luck.
I watched that interview. That was a great interview. I wish more.
It was so clear, wasn't it?
Yeah, board executives would do that.
Yeah, you won't get the Glazers coming out and doing that, I'm afraid. But I think it's a situation where everyone wins because he's leaving his boyhood club, a club that he's been at since he was 6 years old, I believe. And now he's getting them a massive fee, which they can reinvest. And I think they're reinvesting really, really well, to be absolutely honest. I think the signing of Ings came out of nowhere. I heard he was linked to Spurs earlier on, Liverpool towards the tail end of last season. But it came out of the blue. It was really kept under wraps.
Yeah, and a good price as well. I think 25 million for someone who's a proven goal scorer, who was scoring goals in a Southampton team that wasn't really doing very well. I think that's a very good signing. They've also got, of course, Buendia, who lit up the Championship last season.
Absolute class player, Buendia.
15 goals and 16 assists.
Yeah, he'll do well.
So many goal contributions. I think that's a fantastic signing and a really, really shrewd replacement. They also got Leon Bailey as well from Bayer Leverkusen. He's only 23 years of age. He 9 goals and 8 assists in the Bundesliga last season. And also they brought back Ashley Young, who just won Serie A with Inter Milan. So anything happens to Cash or Target, left or right back, and they've got a very good cover, someone who loves the club as well, who started there. Didn't start there, but has played there for a long time. So I think they've had a very, very good window. I really do.
They've also
Danny Ings as well. It's just been what an unbelievable signing. I mean, bosh, there he is. We'll have Danny Ings. I think that affects Watkins a little bit. It's going to put him out a little bit wide. But I mean, what a front pairing.
Yeah,
Danny Ings,
great
Danny
options
Ings
to
and
have.
Competition, right?
Yep.
They've got Buendia, they've got Leon Bailey. Providing the assists. I mean, just going back to Grealish. I mean, I think they've probably bought Grealish to complement De Bruyne. I think, you look at Grealish over
You're doing really well, De Bruyne. Now get out there and go do well while I sit on the bench.
Well,
that's the biggest compliment you can do, right?
It's gonna really, really strengthen them in terms of the creativity, and Grealish gets goals as well. I mean, he's got 14 goals in the last 2 seasons in the Premier League for Aston Villa. De Bruyne also has these niggling injury problems that come up now and again. A couple of years ago, he missed about half the Premier League matches, and he missed a fair share as well last season. And when De Bruyne is missing, Man City do struggle a bit to create chances, more so in Europe than in the Premier League. I think they're obsessed with winning the Champions League. They know they need that in-depth creativity in case injuries start to go through the team like they have done with De Bruyne in the past. And I think Grealish and De Bruyne, I think you'll see a lot of rotation between them this season. And they're both like for like. I mean, De Bruyne over the past couple of seasons got about 20 odd goals, 30 odd assists, and Grealish is not that far behind him. And he'll just have the strength at Man City.
I think he is. I think there's a big gap in talent between De Bruyne and Grealish. I really do. And I think Grealish will be played more out on the left.
Do you think Grealish has got potential to be as good as De Bruyne one day, though?
Well, how old are they? How old's Grealish now? 26?
25. De Bruyne's 30. Okay. And I mean, I'm not sure what contract De Bruyne is on at the moment, but I mean, there will come a point where are they going to extend De Bruyne to the point where there's no resale value in the player? And I think post-COVID, I think this is going to be on the minds of a lot of clubs. Like, who do they sign? Who do they re-sign in terms of resale value? I mean, De Bruyne has probably got another good 3 or 4 years left in him for sure. But just strengthening. And let's not forget, I mean, Harry Kane is also bound for Man City, and you're just linking up 2 of the best creators in the Premier League in terms of De Bruyne and Grealish. I can't think of, apart from Buendia, who we just mentioned, but there's not many that create as many chances. It's not just the chances that Grealish creates, it's the fouls that he draws as well, which leads to a lot of set pieces. And Man City are just amazing at those. They've got so many players that can deliver. You've got Gundogan, you've got Mahrez, you've got De Bruyne himself as well, Sterling. They can all get balls into the box during set pieces, and you've got Harry Kane who's just going to get on the end of no end of them. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Kane gets 30, 35 goals next season with this creativity of the team.
In terms of value for money, though, do you think signing Ings, Buendia and Bailey for around £80+ million is better than having Grealish for £100 million?
Grealish is irreplaceable. They can't replace what he brings to the team, can they? But in terms of the fee is astronomical for a player that was sort of a cult championship hero, if you like, and got his first England cap last year, and played 1 game in the Euros. Not because he wasn't good enough, obviously, the tactics aside. I think it's a situation where everyone wins. The money is nothing to City. They get another creative player who's going to improve, and Villa get a hatful of money and a goal scorer, a creative midfielder, and a backup defender as well. I think Villa fans will be happy with it.
Yeah, they've also got Tuanzebe on loan as well. I should mention that.
Yeah, exactly. So back up for what? Konsa and Mings.
Yeah.
Such a strong defence.
Yeah.
I think Villa had a very, very good window.
All right, for Brighton, how about this? Who would you rather have? Jack Grealish or Ings, Buendia and Bailey?
We need a striker. So whoever it is.
Ings then?
Ings, exactly, yeah. Absolutely, right. Yeah.
I meant them as a 3. Who would you rather have? If I said tomorrow you can have Grealish or you can have Ings, Buendia and Bailey. Go on, say
take
it.
Grealish, sell him for 100 million.
No. All right, well, let's move on anyway. So, next club, Brentford.
Yeah, so Brentford
newly promoted, Stefan.
Yeah, well, it's a new Premier League team, which is always nice to see. For years now, Brentford have been the sort of perennial nearly men, getting to the playoffs and then failing at the last hurdle. I think it was Fulham the year before last, Scott Parker's Fulham. And then they've gone through this cycle of having to sell their best players at more pay to Brighton, Watkins to Villa, Benrahma to West Ham. And this year, obviously, they've got promoted, and it's the year they haven't had to sell their best player, which for me is Ivan Toney. He was a player that I'd love to have seen come to the Premier League in a Brighton shirt had Brentford not gone up. And they haven't spent big. They brought in Aya from Celtic, centre-back, which I imagine he'd accompany Potus Janssen. And Ngeka, a midfielder, highly rated midfielder from the Danish league. So they haven't spent big. I don't think it's really in their ethos to spend big. They don't have an academy. They have, if you like, the sort of Barca system of an A and a B team, which then feeds their first 11. And I think they're going to play this exactly the same way they played in the Championship, but at a higher level in the Premier League, which is similar to what Bielsa did with Leeds. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did quite well this year. But they're not breaking the bank. They're not spending on their TV money. So they go for it. Maybe they go down, and then they have a great team for the Championship next year. But it's one of the teams I'm looking forward to watching. And they've got Arsenal on the first day, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were to pull off a shock.
You did mention
is it a shock?
You did mention Onyeko, right? Who they just signed, who's nicknamed Frank the Tank, who Clive they say NDD 2.0.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they call him.
Box to box, apparently.
We're looking out for him then.
Yeah, and like you said, I think is it Azure or Ayur? Sign it.
Aya from Celtic, 30.5 million. He's an absolute rock in defence.
6'6", I believe. 23 caps for Norway.
Absolutely brilliant.
2 tanks, there you go.
Yeah, my concern maybe is that when you get promoted from the Championship, that you maybe need that Premier League experience, and you bring in a couple of heads that have been there and done it, and they haven't done that. And I don't think the manager or the director of football would be up for doing that. But that's where they might struggle if they get off to a bad start, for example. But yeah, I think there'll be a lot of fun to watch. If it's only 1 year, I think the fans will enjoy it. And if not, they've got a great team to come back up with, again, with all that Premier League money. So I think they've had a steady window, and it's not over yet. But
like you said, keeping Ivan Toney, who has the potential to score a lot of goals in the Premier League, is massive for them. It's massive.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, moving on then to your beloved Brighton.
Yeah. So we spoke about Ben White going. So I think the plan at the start of the window, well, from the fans' perspective anyway, was to sell one of Lamptey, Basuma, or Ben White, and then use that money to buy a striker. And we've got 50 million. We've got 50 million for Ben White now. And there's been no talk of a striker since the opening weeks of the transfer window, since the end of the season, basically. If you looked at Brighton's team last year, you'd look at our back five and say that is a top 6 back five, if you like. And our midfield is somewhere around mid-table, and our striking options are relegation form. So it's quite clear from an outsider or a neutral or even a fan's perspective that we need to invest in a striker. If you look at Brighton's expected goals, we should have finished 7th. Don't read too much into expected goals, but Graham Potter is the king of expected goals, even at Swansea. And he left it late last year, and we ended up with Danny Welbeck, who, if Danny Welbeck was fit enough, he wouldn't be at Brighton, is my general opinion of the boy. We've got Morpay, Connolly, Andoni. These are all nearly men. We need a striker, and he's not invested. We're not being linked with anyone. I'll hear talk of Edouard from Celtic, but there's no strong links. And I just feel that I don't think Brighton will go down with the current squad, but I don't think we'll kick on. And Graham Potter was brought in to make Brighton a top 10 team. The quality of football was improved, but it's going to be the same old thing of playing pretty football and having 10 draws, more draws than IKEA. There is talk that we might be getting Matt Grimes in from Swansea. I can see the link there. There's talk of Dan James. I don't know if that's substantiated. We need a left back. I can see that happening. One thing I have been pleased about is we're getting rid of some of the deadwood that Chris Hughton signed, that players on big wages. So Davy Proper, Ali Yahambach, and the likes.
You're happy to see Proper leave?
Yeah, I think he was very good in the first couple of seasons, but he hasn't really been at the races, and he didn't like the big games. And we've got Mwepu coming in now, box-to-box midfielder. I imagine in the long term that will be to replace Yves Bissouma.
Well, I was just about to say, Mwepu, from what I've seen, looks like he was brought in to replace Bissouma, but Bissouma's not leaving now.
So we'll have them both, I suppose.
So you'll have them both, yeah.
Lallana in front. Yeah, he's nicknamed the computer for his ability to read the game, apparently. So
should be the library, no?
Well, yeah. So I don't know. I think if Brighton don't get a striker, this will go down as a really bad window. And with the fans back at Falmer at the Amex, I think they'll get straight on his back if it's the same old sort of situation as last year if we don't win the first few games.
So as it stands now, you're not happy?
Yeah, I haven't been happy with the transfer window for Brighton for 3-4 years, I think.
Okay.
Well, what are the expectations though of Brighton? To be honest, I mean,
top 10. You just said top 10.
That's Dan Ashwood. That's the owners, if you like. That's the expectations.
I mean, but does that coincide with the expectations of of the Brighton fans, because I mean, Brighton do not strike me as a top 10 side at all, to be honest with you. I mean, you said it yourself. I mean, you're lacking that striker. You do have creativity in midfield with the likes of Trossard, but I mean, if Maupay isn't at the races and Welbeck's injured, you're struggling, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's the problem. With a striker, I think honestly, you might think I'm deluded, but with a striker, I think we're top 10.
No, I agree.
If you watch us play, the hardest thing in the world is putting the ball in the back of the net. But there are players out there. Last season, Callum Wilson, Ollie Watkins, these players are players that we could have potentially got. Brighton is an attractive place to play football, that we create so many chances. I'd love to see us have some ambition and go for Tammy Abraham and reinvest that money in Ben White, but it just won't happen. And maybe the wages is an issue there as well. But yeah, I think as a Brighton fan, you're always looking to see if there's 3 teams worse off than you. And luckily, I think there is this year.
All right, well, let's just go back now. Let's go back to Arsenal. Based on the transfer activity so far, thumbs up or thumbs down? 5?
Gotta be a thumbs down for me for now.
Let me see that.
Don't have to verbalise it. Yeah.
All right, what about Aston Villa?
Oh, definite thumbs up.
That's a 2 thumbs up.
That's 2, yeah.
Brentford?
Thumbs up for now.
I'd say the same.
I'd say thumbs up for now. I mean, Aya's just a great signing from Celtic. I mean, I think he'll be a standout defender in the league this season.
Yeah, and
so,
hanging on to Tony as well. So, Brighton. Yeah, I'm going to listen to you, Stefan. I'm going to go with that. Thumbs down. All right, moving on, Clive. Burnley.
Burnley, really, I think they're in for a tough season. They've not signed anybody yet. They've been linked with Ademola Lookman from Fulham, and they've also getting their fans excited with a bit of a samba beat for a certain Santos swinger by the name of Arthur Gomez. But I mean, the main criticism, I think, from Burnley fans at the moment so far this season is they've had this new investment from this American consortium who basically kind of siphoned off the TV money and the previous season ticket sales. There's about 70 million debt now hanging around the club, and there's no player signings. Chris Wood's just got back from the Olympics. Sean Dyche seems to have a knack of always pulling it off for Burnley, but I think they're not going to kick on. They're never going to be a top 10 side with the current setup that they've got there. And I just think they're going to struggle. I mean, this Arthur Gomez, I mean, he could be amazing. I mean, no one's really seen much of him. Lookman has potential, but really was a 1 in 6, 1 in 5 player for Fulham when they were in the Premier League. And yeah, it's a disappointing transfer window so far for Burnley. You just worry for them because you do wonder how many more rabbits out of hats Sean Dyche can pull out, to be perfectly honest. If I was a rabbit, I'd be scared to death of Sean Dyche. I'd be running a mile. But
but this has been going on a while. I think
been going on a while, and he's been linked with Sean Dyche has been linked with other clubs. He was linked with Crystal Palace. He's I think there's
Celtic
3
at one point, wasn't it, as well?
Celtic at one point. I mean, I think there'd be several Premier League clubs that would quite happily have Sean Dyche, but he just doesn't get the backing, and it's unlikely that he will do this season. I think the best they can possibly hope for is a replacement for Tarkowski, who's been linked with a move to Leicester. He's in the final year of his contract, so if they don't get money for him this transfer window, they're going to lose out on at least 20-25 million for him. I mean, they rated him at around 50 million. Leicester have been in for him in the past 2 summer transfer windows, and they balked at 50 million for Tarkowski. I mean, I think if it's going to happen, it'll happen a lot cheaper now. Yeah. And he is at the point where he probably wants to move on as well. I mean, he's 27 years old. I can't see Tarkowski playing for Burnley beyond this transfer window. Whether he ends up at Leicester or elsewhere is yet to be seen.
Yeah, the only significant signing I can see they've actually made is Nathan Collins, the defender from Stoke. But
I mean, I think that just speaks
more
volumes.
Of the same, does it? It's more of the same, isn't it? Players from the Championship.
It just speaks volumes for the situation they're getting themselves in. And they've not got the biggest of squads. Loughton as well. He's come into close contact with COVID case in the family, so he'll probably miss the game against Brighton at the weekend. So yeah, Interesting times at Turf Moor, for sure.
Yeah. All right, then moving on from Burnley to Chelsea. Quite a difference.
Yeah, well, they've up until, what was it, last week? I don't think, or a few days ago, I don't think Chelsea had really done much. But let me ask you this. Who do you think, you might know the answer to this anyway, who do you think the leading scorer for Chelsea was last year in the Premier League?
Havertz.
Havertz, Aaron?
Was it Havertz?
Hang on. Jorginho.
It's not Havertz. Jorginho is the right
What's
answer.
Jorginho?
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jorginho with 7 goals.
Yeah.
Which tells its own story. So I think Tuchel came in obviously after the disaster that was Frank Lampard, in my opinion. Shored up the defence, but doesn't have that target man, doesn't have that focal point, that striker that can get you, which should be getting you 20 goals a season. And I think by signing Lukaku, I think this is the signing of. I know Harry Kane hasn't actually happened yet. We all think it's going to happen, but I still think Lukaku is the signing of the window. He's been there before. Every club he's played at, including all the Premier League clubs that he's played at, he scored an incredible amount of goals. His record in Serie A is out of this world, had a great Euros, and he's the missing link for me for Chelsea. Chelsea have so many creative players in behind that front man. What we got, the likes of Pulisic, Mount, Ziyech, Werner, maybe Havertz. Yeah, it goes on and on. Yeah. And I think this is the missing link for Chelsea. I think if they won the Champions League without a recognised front man, I think this really completes the package for me. I think this is the signing of the window. And saying Jorginho was their leading scorer last year tells its own story, right? I think Chelsea can go on and win the league based on this signing. That one area maybe they might need to strengthen is the centre-back position. They've let a couple go, and I wonder now if they regret letting Tomori go last year.
What a player he is.
Exactly, yeah. Because that's one area maybe, but that's just picking holes.
He was actually sold this year, Tomori.
When I was on loan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Had him on loan. AC Milan absolutely loved him, and he was playing out of his skin. Probably one of the most unluckiest players not to get in Gareth Southgate's England squad, to be honest.
Yeah.
They've signed him for like Stones and Maguire were absolutely outstanding, but signed him for like 20-25 million, and he loves it there, and they love him. So I mean, he'll do well at AC Milan.
And of course, Giroud's left as well. So
you'd imagine Tammy Abraham's going now.
It looks that way, doesn't it? Yeah.
West Ham were interested.
Atalanta.
Spurs.
Would they do business?
See, I don't know. A lot of clubs wouldn't sell Daniel Levy a cold, I don't think. It's hard. It's hard to tell, where he might end up. I don't think he'll be at Chelsea next season. There were rumours about Southampton, but now they've signed Alan Armstrong. I can't see it happening.
Oh, no, that's it.
All right, then moving on. Clive, Everton, what do you think?
A couple of interesting signings for Everton. I mean, they've not spent a lot of money. I mean, they've signed Andros Townsend, who had one of the best assist records last season for Palace, and with Benteke getting on the end of crosses, and Palace let him go on a free, and Benitez has worked with him before at Newcastle. So he's an interesting signing. And Damari Gray, a winger that flatters to deceive. He really does. I mean, for all the flashes of brilliance that Damari Gray had at Leicester City, and I'll never forget him for scoring that goal against Cardiff after the tragic accident that led to the death of Vichai, the Leicester City owner. But I mean, he's just, the problem with Damari Gray is he's 10 step overs too many and no end product. If Benitez can coach, he's still young, he's still only 23. If Benitez can coach him, then the likes of Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, they're going to have a field day with those two wingers for sure. They've also been linked with Dumfries from PSV, who had an absolutely brilliant Euros. One of my favourite players to watch for Holland during the Euros. So he could sort of be a bit of a regeneration on the wing for Seamus Coleman. Not a bad transfer window so far for Everton. I think Rodriguez, old James Rodriguez, he's going to join his surrogate father Ancelotti at Real Madrid. So I think he'll shortly be out the door. But I don't think Everton fans will be that sorry to see him go, to be perfectly honest. I mean, he started off really well, but he did tail off. I don't think he quite liked the cold December nights at Goodison Park.
I mean, last transfer window with Ancelotti, they brought in James Rodriguez,
Galacticos,
Allen and Decore, right? And this season,
it's a bit of a come down, isn't it? For
Townsend, Gray, and Begovic.
No, but they are very practical players for Everton. You've got players like Richarlison, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the Premier League's answer to NBA. He's like Mr. Hang Time. I mean, the height that he gets in the air for his headers is unbelievable. And if Gray, Townsend for sure can do it. And if Gray can also live up to some of the potential that I believe he might have, then Everton could really get that service to the front two that really is beneficial for them and delivers a lot of goals. And they've got a very good start next season. They've got Southampton at home on the opening game, and I think they're away at Leeds. There's a couple of games really where they really could take 4 points from them.
I think it's pretty obvious that Benitez is going to change the way that Everton play now, or he has to, doesn't he?
Well, pragmatism is key, isn't it?
He loves his wingers.
Starting from the back and just crossing those balls into DCL as quick as he can.
I just seem to remember Benitez signing Stuart Downing, and we were all like, what on earth is he doing when he was at Liverpool and he signed Stuart Downing?
Jermaine Pennant.
He just loves his wingers. Loves them. Bombing down the stick to the byline, get to the byline, whip it in. And you've got a couple of players that are capable of doing that.
They've got a target man for it. So
they've got two of them. Yeah. I mean, Richarlison can get his head on the end of a ball as well. To be honest, and have they still got Cenk Tosun as well there at Everton, or did he leave in the end? I can't remember.
Tosun went to Palace on loan, didn't he, for a bit?
I think he might have left, but I mean, they've also signed Begovic on a free. So Pickford had another howler against Man United in pre-season, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So he's got his Everton form back and left his England form behind.
It's weird, isn't he?
Begovic is the answer. But Benitez has gone with players who have played at Premier League level already. So
is this an FP issue maybe though? Because they're not spending a lot on transfers here, and they spent a lot in the last window.
They even have FFP in the Premier League. I just really, honestly, judge it. There's going to be another 150 million spent on Kane. Yeah. So, like, Man United have spent 250 million pounds. I just would love to see the percentages of what, because this is why Barcelona couldn't re-sign Messi, because the percentage of your revenue, only a certain percentage can be spent on salaries. Now, if the league are applying that, how do the Premier League apply?
It's creative accounting, isn't it? They offset it.
Let's not forget, Manchester City were taken to court by UEFA for financial fair play and were very close to being banned of the Champions League. Now they're shelling out 250 million pounds on probably two of England's biggest stars. I mean, for me in English football, FFP is a joke. And until they actually ban a club from Europe, no one's going to adhere to it. And it is surprising what's happened in the Liga, but it seems that the rules possibly are applied in leagues a bit differently.
Yeah, just going back to Everton, I was looking at the players who have left the club. They've got rid of a lot of fringe players. Walcott's gone, Besic, Josh King, Balassi.
Yeah.
They've all left the club. All of them have gone.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe it's a financial. Well, they've got the new stadium coming.
Yeah,
so they have. There's a few extra seats.
They're not the only ones to have shed a lot of players. I mean, I think Crystal Palace did the same. Yeah. We've mentioned Townsend. I mean, Cahill, Dan, Klein, Hennessy, McCarthy, Van Arnholt. And they've all gone. Connor Wickham, who's been stealing a living as a footballer for the past 2 or 3 years, he's gone. So I mean, there's been a lot of clubs that have been shedding a lot of players, and I think that's COVID related as well. So it's no surprise really.
Actually, moving back to Crystal Palace, Stefan, what do you make of the signings that have come in?
Well, if we're saying that Arsenal are in transition, this is an absolute revolution, isn't it? So Clive's referred to all the players that have left there: Saka, Van Arnholt, Townsend, Cahill, Dans. They have an aging squad. They also had an aging manager, didn't they? And they addressed that really. They sort of politely showed Roy the door. And I really thought that Eddie Howe was going to be the man to come in. I thought that was almost nailed on. It didn't happen. And they've just invested in youth and a younger manager in Patrick Vieira. So they brought in Gehi from Chelsea and Joachim Anderson. So they spent 40 million on their centre-backs. A boy Alessi from Reading and Conor Gallagher was at West Brom last year. So there's a clear movement away from what tried and tested, if you like, and then safety in the Premier League. I don't think it's been too exciting for Palace fans over the last sort of 3-4 years, but they had that safety in the Premier League. They are an established Premier League club. And before this run, Palace had never had more than one season in the top flight. So I wonder if this is a bit of a gamble. I think Palace fans will be cautiously optimistic. I remember what happened last time. They got in a relatively untested manager in De Boer. That's a weekly mention for De Boer, by the way. And yeah, I think it could really go wrong, or it could really go right. And let's hope it goes really wrong.
I think it's going to go the other way, Clive. I think they brought in Frank De Boer point two. I think he's just the same.
Be fine. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll get the best out of some of those players. I think Zaha really is in tune with him.
From what I read about him at Nice, that he didn't really know what his best formation was. He didn't know his best starting 11, and that's why they got rid of him. And he's managed to land a job at Crystal Palace based on the fact that he was a fantastic Arsenal player.
Yeah, it's be careful what you wish for, Palace fans, I think.
Yeah, this is going to end in disaster.
Will we see Roy Hodgson back in by December?
It could be
Christmas miracle, I think.
He's older than Santa Claus, isn't he? All right then. Tell you what, let's go back. So let's do Everton. Thumbs up or thumbs down? What do we think?
A thumbs up for me for now.
Yeah,
definite thumbs up.
I'm going to go thumbs down. I think they're backtracking. I don't think they're going to do as well as they did last season either, based on the talent they brought in, or so-called talent they brought in. Crystal Palace.
Thumbs up for now. Thumbs up for now. Thumbs up for now. A couple of decent signings there in defence, for sure.
All right, now moving on from Palace and Everton, Stefan, what do you make of what's happened at Leeds United over the transfer window?
Many people say now Leeds, this is the second season syndrome, right, where they're going to get caught out. That's the cliche.
Some people are saying that, but a lot of people are saying it's the other way. They're going to climb the table.
That applies to teams that sort of shock you, like Burnley or Sheffield United or Huddersfield, teams that come up and you didn't realise quite how good they were. Or they have that bounce, if you like, from getting promoted from the Championship. But I think we were sat here last year and said that Leeds were going to do well and finish mid-table, and that's exactly what they did do. I think if you look at the form guide going into the end of last year, Leeds were third, but behind, I'm guessing, City and Chelsea. So they finished the season in an outstanding way, and I think they'll probably go on and do more of the same next year. And I think that's why Bielsa hasn't really invested. I know they needed a left back because Aloisi, he's gone somewhere. He's gone somewhere far away for a lot of money, I think. And they've bought in the boy from Barcelona. They've taken advantage of the Barcelona. Everything must go sail. But other than that, they haven't really strengthened. But I think what they've got now is an established set of Premier League players in the likes of Bamford and Phillips. The issue for me is their defence. Obviously, they play expansive football. Bielsa doesn't play for draws. And the other issue for me is burnout. So obviously, he's murderable, if you like. He's high intensity training. Will these players be able to sustain another year without that squad depth? But for me, I think he hasn't seen necessary to bring anyone in. He's got a lot of faith in his players. He is a genius, I think, outside of the big managers. I think Bielsa has done great things at Leeds.
Yes,
I trust him. I think he hasn't brought anyone in.
He'll be really happy to hear that, Stefan. Really
nice. Coming from me. But my issue, second season syndrome, that could happen to Patrick Bamford. And I really hope it doesn't. Because if his goals were to dry up, Leeds could be in a lot of trouble.
Oh, they will be, definitely.
Let's not forget, though, they have got Rodrigo, who played a bit towards the back end of last season and was chipping in with a few goals. They've been linked with Nathan Nandez from Calgary, holding midfielder, Uruguayan international. That Filippo from they've signed from Real Betis. He's a good player, and he really fits in with Bielsa's style of football, attacking, getting down the wings. I think he got something like 4 goals and 2 assists for Real Betis. Barcelona last season. He scored against Real Betis in one game for Barcelona. Good, typical Leeds United signing. They could do with a bit more strength in centre mid. They had a really good second half last season where they really shored up the defence. Some big improvements in defence from them in the second half. So I think they'll kick on. I think you're looking at another top 10 finish for Leeds, to be honest.
I agree.
Does he need to change too much at Leeds United? I mean, they've got 2 decent strikers. They've also signed that young player from Chelsea, Lewis Bates.
They've also sealed Harris. You're just about to say it, weren't you?
Yeah,
Sealed
Harrison, yeah,
from City.
Yeah, I mean, he was always going to, I think, go Leeds. I don't think that was ever in question. And you know,
and
stats,
also
his stats. So I was going to say his stats like really match up with Rafinha as well. So they've got a lot of strength in depth as well there.
There was 2 points I was going to say. I was going to say Llorente, who didn't play a lot of football, did come back. He'll be a fantastic centre half for them. He gets in the Spanish squad as well now. And holding on to, is it Rafinha that you mentioned?
Yeah.
Right.
I think he's a very good player, very, very dangerous player. So yeah, thumbs up for me. Leeds. Thumbs up. All right, Clive, the moment you've been waiting for, Leicester City.
I think it's been a very good transfer window for Leicester so far, and we've signed Samer from Lille. Excellent signing, box-to-box midfielder. Ryan Bertrand was absolutely outstanding against Man City. Thought he had a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he might be able to sort of like hit some teams down that left-hand side. I mean, Luke Thomas is a great player for Leicester City, bit inexperienced. So I think Ryan Bertrand's kind of come in there to provide that experience and that's needed against a lot of teams in the Premier League. And then we've signed that Patson Daka from Red Bull Salzburg, and he is so quick. You know, just chip off the old block from Jamie Vardy. I still think that Vardy will start the season. Harvey Barnes also is back to full fitness now. So I think Rodgers will play it safe. I think he'll go with the tried and tested team that ended last season. And I think we'll sort of see Patson Daka brought in gradually and get used to the Premier League. I'm really, really excited for next season. It's been a good transfer window. A bit sad that we couldn't take advantage of Barcelona's failings and sign Coutinho, because he was linked with us at one point. But I think we've strengthened in the right areas, and I think it'll be a good season for Leicester.
Yeah, it's one of the first years you haven't really had to sell anyone as well, right? One of your better players.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if Maddison stays, Tielemans was linked with Liverpool.
Yeah.
But didn't really impress during the Euros, did he much, to be honest? And I think you know, we're holding on to two big players there, Maddison and Tielemans. I really do fancy us to do well this season. A Europa League final isn't out of the question for Leicester, to be honest with you. I think he's strengthened with that in mind. And I think now we have depth up front and in midfield and in defence. I think he's going to sign Tarkowski. If that falls through, I think Vestergaard's another option from Southampton. So we do need to sign a centre back, because you know, Fofana had an absolutely horrific injury against Villarreal, and he's out for the rest of this year. Certainly, they've said he won't play it. Maybe he might make a comeback March, April, but I mean, that's one to be watched really. But we do need to sign a centre back. Johnny Evans is not going to be fit until maybe the third or fourth game of the season. He's still struggling with a nasty heel injury. We might see Daniel Amati at centre back, who had a brilliant game, had Grealish in his pocket, to be perfectly honest, when he came on. I was really impressed with how Daniel Amati handled him. And that's great for Leicester, because what has happened in the past before, when we've been short on cover at the centre back position, it happened against Spurs in the last game of the season when Fofana did his hamstring, is indeed he had to drop back into that centre back role and fill in, which he can do, but that left us really, really light in midfield. And as hard as Chowdhury tries, he's no Ndidi. And I think we've signed somewhere with that view of what we might need in the Premier League next season and going into another season of Europa League football.
Yeah, I was just looking at Daka's stats: 27 goals in 28 games last season, and the season before it was 24 goals. Is only 22.
I mean, his stats in the Champions League is also quite good. And I think Liverpool and Spurs are after him as well. So I think that tells you sort of the calibre of player that he is. The Premier League's a different ball game altogether. So, I mean, I think, you know, he will be eased in. I can't see Rodgers starting him against Wolves at the weekend. Something's going to have to happen where Leicester have a poor start or someone gets injured for him to get his chance to start. He's probably going to get 20 minutes, 30 minutes for the first few games. And and when he gets his chance, I'm sure he'll take it.
And you think Soumare will be starting? 17 million from Lille?
No, I don't think he'll start starting just yet. I think Soumare will be kind of eased in as well, because, I mean, unless something happens to Ndidi or Tielemans, or if someone was to leave, then I don't think he's needed. But I think the way we might use Soumare is going to be in away games where we need to keep it maybe a bit tighter, where we maybe need to play like 2 holding midfielders instead. You may see Maddison sitting out a few games in that situation as well. It's going to be interesting. The way that they've lined up the attacking options as well allows for Iheanacho and Daka to play up front, and you may see Vardy playing more on the left, which may also allow Harvey Barnes to switch to a more number 10 position. There's a lot of options for Leicester next season, for sure.
Thumbs up then.
Thumbs up. Definite thumbs up for me.
All right, then moving on to Liverpool. Very quiet again in this transfer window.
Yeah.
The only major signing they've made was Konate, a good prospect, 22-year-old centre-back. Looks like a shrewd acquisition, considering that Matip and Van Dijk have had injury problems. However, Wijnaldum has gone. And Wijnaldum has played almost every single game over the last few seasons. Almost every game, yeah?
He featured in every Premier League game last year for Liverpool at some point in the match, yeah.
That's a huge loss, and they haven't replaced him. It looks like what they intend to do is use Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott.
Yeah.
But relying on them, replacing someone like Wijnaldum, that's a dangerous thing to do. And there's also question marks now over Mane, because at the end of last season, he didn't look like he wanted to be there.
Well, that front three isn't as good as it was 2 years ago, is it?
Exactly. And then you're looking at Firmino again, who doesn't want to be there.
I think you'll see Firmino's going to drop off now. I think Diego Jota, without a doubt, has kind of overtaken him. Very surprised to see Harry Wilson leave. He's gone to Fulham permanently for a 12 million deal. Again, a lot of their fringe players have gone as well. Adam Lewis, Liam Coyle, Joe Hardy. A lot of them have gone. The only one is, like you say, is they let Kabak go back. They weren't really interested in signing him either.
And they haven't really been linked with anyone either.
Oh, they haven't. But they do still have a very good team, I think. And you've got to be careful what they do with what Liverpool do in terms of upsetting that balance that they do have. But
I understand that. But there's also, are you stagnating? Has the squad stagnated?
I wouldn't say the squad's stagnated.
I think it has, 100%. I don't think there is. I think even with those players that they have now, they're not as good as they were when they won the league.
And you've got to look at the teams around. So say Man City getting Kane and Grealish, Chelsea getting Lukaku, Man United getting Sancho, Varane. I mean, they are stagnating in relation to their peers, if you like. I think maybe they're just looking at it last year. They had a horrible season last year. The luck wasn't on their side, was it?
A lot of injuries.
A lot of injuries, for sure.
Massive injuries. Nat Phillips playing centre-half. Van Dijk, Gomez getting injured practically at the same time. No goalkeeper at one point, I believe. So they might be looking at Van Dijk now as if to say this is almost like a new signing.
Yeah. But saying that the injury that he did have, is he going to be able to come back and perform at the level that he did? And
he started against Athletic Bilbao, and I think if he wasn't fit, I don't think Klopp would be starting him. He played yesterday in their final pre-season, so I think the time will tell. But I'll be very surprised if we don't see the best of Virgil van Dijk again.
I would not be surprised. I think that injury is going to hurt him, and we're not going to see the best of him. He's not going to be the player that he was. I really do believe that. And
Gomez had the same injury, so that's another worry. The first 11, I don't think is a problem, but I think when you're competing on all four fronts, they've got the Champions League as well. I think going into that Christmas period, I think they could really struggle. Just another key injury.
But again, coming back to Wijnaldum, who's going to play in that position? You're looking at Henderson.
Naby Keita.
They're all question marks.
Yeah.
Whereas Wijnaldum was set. That's him. That's where he plays. And he was vital to the way they played, and they've lost him, and they don't seem to really care about replacing him.
The other issue is Henderson's contract as well.
Yeah,
he hasn't been offered what he wants, or hasn't been offered.
Well, I don't think they don't want to get in another Wijnaldum situation. So I think the situation with Henderson is he either signs or they will sell him. And I think it's slowly getting to that point. Really, I think he probably wants a longer contract than what they're willing to offer him.
Don't you just give it to him though, Jordan Henderson, Champions League winner?
He's 32 now, isn't he? So I mean, I think he's getting on a bit, and I think there's a certain level that a lot of clubs are going to go to with some of these players now, post COVID, where they've not had any revenue for a whole season. So there's going to be a standoff there. He's a great player, Henderson, but they have got other players that can come in and play in that position. They might have to sign more cover in the future. Going to be interesting. I think once the Kane saga dies down, that might be the next one to watch.
All right, then let's move on. Clive, Manchester City.
Well, it's just unbelievable, really, what they've done. I'm a big fan of Grealish. I think he'll do really well at Man City, and I think they'll just absolutely mop up this season. I mean,
is that with or without Kane?
Oh, they could. You sent me the thing earlier. I mean, the things that they can do with that team, they could play a whole second team in the League Cup this season and win it. I mean, if you look at the players that they've got, right, this is their second team. This is what I would say their second team is, right? Jesus up front, and then you've got Sterling on the left, Torres on the right, Foden in centre mid, and then just behind Foden, you've got Bernardo Silva, assuming he stays, Bernardinho, and then Zinchenko on the left, Ake centre back, Laporte beside him, Walker on the right with Stefan in goal. The only question mark I've got in that entire team is Ake at the back. That is the only one. You know, they could easily win the FA Cup or the League Cup with that side. You know, they could do an unprecedented quadruple this season. If they sign Kane, which I think they will.
That's what I'm saying. If they sign Kane, sign Kane,
I'll be absolutely astounded if Kane's a Spurs player by at the end of this season. I'll be absolutely shocked if he stays there. I mean, Spurs have signed. Well, they've not signed him. It's looking quite like that. Martinez from Inter Milan's going to head there. There's another European club that's having an absolute fire sale.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're spending the Kane money already. The only thing is you could see potentially De Bruyne and Kane getting injured maybe later in the season, but even so, Foden steps in, Jesus stays in, Sterling plays, or Mahrez play a false nine.
Grealish comes.
There's just endless possibilities with them. I mean, they'd have to have serious burnout to not win the league this season or the Champions League. I mean, you do need a bit of luck in the Champions League, but they should clean up in the FA Cup and the League Cup. I just can't see anyone coming anywhere near them this season.
Thumbs up then.
Thumbs up, 100.
Thumbs up. All right. All right. Well, then moving on to Man United. It's been a really good window, really productive for us. To bring in Jadon Sancho, who was supposed to sign for over 100 million last season, to bring that down to 73 million for a young English right winger is amazing, because we needed that. And if he is coming, I think he's here, but Raphael Varane for 41 million. He's won 4 Champions League. We've won 3 as a club. He's won 4 on his own. I think that's a very, very shrewd bit of business. I think that could be one of the signings of the seasons. In terms of value for money, I think Raphael is up there. We also brought back Heaton as well. We got rid of Romero and brought back Tom Heaton.
That was just for the shirt sales, though, wasn't it? I think.
Absolutely, yeah. Mine's on its way. So I'm very, very happy with what we've done.
I think Varane is a perfect fit, right, for Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Needs someone with a bit of pace alongside him. I think that's why he's been brought in.
Left-sided centre-back who can also deliver long balls as well. Top 30% apparently in Europe at delivering long balls. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy, very comfortable. There is question marks over our midfield, which I can understand. But last season, that's all everyone was saying. Right wing, centre-back, right wing, centre-back. And we've covered those areas. We've just brought in Sancho and Varane. I'm more than happy with what we've done, what we've achieved. However, are we going to get close to City and Chelsea with what they have at the moment? I'm not so sure. I really am. Like I said, I'm happy. I'm optimistic, but I don't know. I don't think we're at the level right now that Chelsea are at. And
you're going in the right. I think United are going in the right direction. I mean, signing
all I hope we do is at least bridge the gap. I hope whoever finishes first, we're not that far behind. If I'm being honest, all right, being realistic.
The recruitment has improved so much in the last 2 years.
Unbelievable,
right?
Unbelievable, yeah.
But there's still one issue for me, and that is Paul Pogba. And I think if you were to resolve that either way, either get him playing or let him go and replace him, I think you'd be in a much better situation.
Well, I think PSG were going to go in for him until Messi became available.
Yeah,
and that looks like it's over now. So
slightly different position, but I mean,
it slightly is, but it's the
wages.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, yeah. Even for Royal Barons.
End up staying now.
Yeah, it looks like way. But yeah, overall, big thumbs up from me for Man United. I think again we've had a really good window. We've bought a few players in of quality, not just 5 or 6 players to fill holes, but brought in players of pure quality. So yeah, I'm very happy with what we've got. If I personally, if you ask me about Pogba, I'd want him to go. I think
really?
It's time. Yeah, I'd want him to go. If we can find a replacement. Now, Camavinga was the name that was on everyone's lips for the last few weeks. That doesn't look like it's going to happen, even though it could be done for 27 million is what I've heard. Apparently, he's got his heart set on Real Madrid for whatever reason. So that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So yeah, it looks like Pogba's staying for the time being, which is a risk because next season he's out of contract. So
as it stands, what would be your Man United midfield with the players you've got?
So if I'm being optimistic, it'll be Pogba and McTominay, Bruno just in front, Rashford on the left, Sancho on the right, and then Cavani up top, I guess.
So
Cavani
Van der Beek, what was that signing about last year? That's why
I don't know. I don't
understand it. He hasn't. He seemed to get a run at the start, and then he hasn't played. And then is he linked to go elsewhere? I don't get it.
It looked like he was trying to. Solskjaer was trying to bring him in to push Pogba. You know, the same way that he did with Tellez with Shaw. I think Van der Beek was to brought in to push Pogba and see what he was made of. But he hasn't performed at all. He's looked terrible, in fact. He looks like he's really, really slow and off the pace of the Premier League. So, yeah, I don't know how long or how persistent Solskjaer is going to be with him, but I can't see his tenure being at United for another couple of years at least. This could be his last season unless something drastically changes. He has built himself up over the summer, though. I don't know if you've seen him. He's been in the gym for the last few months. He looks like a different person. But again, watching him against Everton, it's the same situation. Passes that don't reach the man, reach the destination, and he doesn't read the game very well. So,
and Matic is
just an old man who just sits on the bench, and we bring on, for the last 20 minutes just to shore up things. That's what it's been for the last 2 seasons. It's like Uncle Matic, bring him on, and we're 2-0 up, bring on Matic, take off Pogba or Fred or McTominay, and let him just shore up things. And we do the same with Mata as well. But apparently he's a nice person to have around the dressing room. But I'd rather get rid of him if I'm being honest. Deadwood for a nice bloke is not a very nice thing to say, but that's what I believe he is. And the same with Matic. Bring other players in who want to actually perform and kick on and not stagnate. But anyway, overall, great window. Yeah, I'm very happy. All right, let's move on then to Newcastle. Okay, then let's move on now to Norwich. No, I'm only joking. So Newcastle, well, as of today, they've had a bid accepted for Willock, and that would be, if they do bring him in, their only signing of the season. And they've let go.
Very, very, very good signing, though.
Great signing. Yeah. Very, very
brilliant
good signing.
Player.
Excellent player. He was amazing the end of the last season. He was incredible.
Scored like 8 goals. No, it's 9 in a row. 8 or 9 in a row. I mean, what a loan signing. I don't think there's many better. I remember when he scored against Liverpool towards the end of last season. I thought that was the final nail in the coffin for Liverpool's Champions League chances. I was going berserk because I knew that Liverpool were Leicester's main rivals for the Champions League. It was just amazing player. And he scored against Fulham last day as well. I mean, they've for 20 million, they've got one heck of a player there.
Yeah. And they've got rid of the Deadwood. Andy Carroll's gone. Christian Atsu's gone.
When he was only on the pay-as-you-go, wasn't he?
Andy Carroll's gone down the pub. That's where they'll find him.
But I mean, they've kept hold of their best players as well, I think.
Yeah.
So they've still got St. Maximin, they've still got Callum Wilson, and I think
I rate them. I think most people rate them too as well. I think they're really good players. And St. Maximin's even stated that he wants to try and get into France's World Cup squad. So I mean, I know, but still,
we all have a dream, can't we? But yeah, I mean, well, Mike actually likes a fee, and those are players that would have commanded one, and they I think probably Newcastle fans. I don't think Newcastle fans can ever be happy. or have been happy for the last 15 years. But I think they haven't really had a bad window in terms of what they haven't been able to let go.
For Newcastle, this is an incredible window. No one's gone and they've brought in a good player. So yeah, thumbs up from Newcastle. Keep it up, Steve Bruce. Well done. All right, then let's move on to the new boys, Norwich City. So letting go Buendia must have hurt the Norwich City fans. That would have been painful for them. However, they have brought in Billy Gilmour from Chelsea. He was a lovely young prospect. They've signed Giannoulis, who they had on loan last season. And they've also brought in Lise Moulet from Nice. However, like I said, they have let go of Buendia. I think they're going to struggle this season. I really do. They've also signed, I just read somewhere, Josh Sargent, a USA international. He's going to sign from Werder Bremen. I don't really know a lot about him, but apparently he's on the move to Norwich. But yeah, overall, I think that Norwich are going to struggle this year. The yo-yo club are going to continue to yo-yo, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just what Norwich do. They're too good for the Championship, not good enough for the Premier League. Yeah, I think they haven't overly gone for it this year.
Yeah. There's one signing that a lot of people have mentioned from Werder Bremen is Rashica, who's a winger, Kosovan winger. And apparently other clubs are interested in him. And yeah, people are expecting big things from him. So people think that if Norwich City do go down, they're confident that someone will sign Rashica. He's that good.
Okay. And I think, as you said, Gilmour is a good signing.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be able to replace Buendia. But, you know, if that's what's available, that's what's available for him.
Do you think that's a good window if you're a Norwich fan?
Back
in promotion?
I don't, because you've been promoted and then you've lost your best player.
Also, rumours of Cantwell going to Aston Villa. And I think if they lose him, I mean, they've lost their two most creative players. But I mean, let's wait and see. I mean, that's just the rumour at the moment.
And it's not the time, is it, to sell Cantwell? When you go down, maybe that's when you can accept losing, not when you get promoted after the season they've had.
Exactly.
To lose your two best players, yeah, hard to swallow.
So yeah, I'm going to say a thumbs down for Norwich, because again, losing your best player after just getting promoted to another Premier League side, that's going to sting, definitely. All right, let's move on then. From Norwich, where are we going next? Southampton. Ugh. This is going to be rough. Clive's already warming up for this one, I can see. So yeah, they brought in Walcott. They brought in Romain Perrault, is it from Stade Brest, 11 million. It looks like they've just signed Adam Armstrong as well. But letting Danny Ings leave and Ryan Bertrand, two very good players. One, the goal scorer of the team. It's going to be a difficult season for Southampton. There's just no two ways about it. I mean,
yeah, and especially if Vestergaard leaves as well. I mean,
has Leicester been linked? So
Leicester have been linked with Vestergaard. I think he's a backup if Tarkowski doesn't come off. I mean, Eloise is back at Southampton after having a decent loan spell at Celtic. I mean, he might help them out a bit. I mean, Armstrong's got to hit the ground running. Che Adams needs to take it up another level. I mean, Walcott also needs to roll back the years for them. They're relying, and also they're relying on Shane Long, who isn't exactly renowned for his goal scoring feats in recent years. I worry for Southampton, and it's just a case of why are the board doing what they're doing? I mean, you understand them that it's either sell Ings now or let him leave for free, but then you need to then reinvest that and more, to replace a 20-odd goal a season striker. I can't see Adams getting more than 10. I can't see Walcott getting more than 7 or 8. You do wonder where the rest of their goals are going to come from.
So you're relying now on them signing Adam Armstrong and then him trying to get 20 plus goals a season. He scored 28. He scored 28 last season in the Championship, but
it's going to be interesting.
To get 15 plus in the Premier League is a tall ask.
It is, but I mean, the other thing is the way Southampton might be looking at it is, are they the 3 worst clubs in that league? Maybe, maybe not, but they'll definitely be in the dogfight.
Yeah, they had an awful run towards the end of the season, didn't they?
Yeah, it's horrific. Yeah, really bad.
They could easily get sucked in.
I was just looking at Walcott's stats. He once scored 14 goals in the league. Do you know what? Want to take a guess at what season that was?
2009.
Clive's left. 2012-13. So that's the last time he scored 14 goals, the best season of his career in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, if you're relying on him, you're in trouble. Yeah. Bad window for Southampton.
Oh yeah,
maybe the worst in the league.
It's debatable, definitely debatable. Yeah, for sure. Are you right there, Clive? All right. Well,
Right.
Yeah, you can. We can't see you. You know that.
Sorry, I had to plug in then.
You're that disgusted with Southampton. Sorry. You didn't want to show your face.
I had to just plug my video in then because the battery was going. All
right. Well, let's move on then. Let's go to Tottenham. Clive.
It's looking quite good actually. I think for Spurs. I think a lot of Spurs fans would have been quite worried about what was going to transpire with Kane leaving. But I mean, they're looking like they're going to sign Martinez from Inter Milan. Romeo's already over the line from Atalanta. Brian Hill from Sevilla in a swap deal with Eric Lamela. I mean, these are Premier League quality players. I mean, time will tell how Martinez adjusts to the Premier League. But
this is the first I've actually heard of Martinez. Is that from today?
Yeah, no, it's looking like a deal of around £60 million.
Okay. They've just signed Romero, haven't they?
For like 40 million.
40 plus.
From Atalanta. Yeah, it's looking like they might adequately replace Harry Kane. Finally, I mean, he's got a good decent.
Did you just say adequately replace?
Well, I mean,
I don't think that exists.
Let's not forget, Lautaro Martinez was part of the Inter Milan side that actually won the league with them. So I mean, he scored 17 goals in the championship winning season. This is if you can get close to 20 in an Italian league that's notoriously stingy for letting goals in. I mean, he has the ability. He's 23 years old. There's a lot of resale value with a player like that as well, and that's I think what Daniel Levy would be looking for, a player that can replace the goals that Harry Kane used to be able to provide, and also in 4 or 5 years' time, at least recoup what you paid out for him, what the layout was. So I think this is a good window for Tottenham.
I don't think Kane is replaceable. It's similar to Grealish, isn't it? At Villa, but it's about what you do with the money. I think.
Well, let me just say that I think it's easier to replace Grealish. We all agree on that, right? Than it is to replace Kane.
Yeah, you can't replace the goals, right?
You can't. I don't think
you're going to have other players that step up to the plate. I think Dele Alli's going to come back in from the cold. I think let's not forget about Lucas Moura. He can score a goal or two. I think Son might start taking a more prominent role up front.
I think he has to.
Role. Well, he scored against Arsenal in a pre-season friendly on Sunday. So I mean, these players are going to complement a Spurs side. I think be interesting to see how Brian Hill develops and how they use him. But I mean, for a team that usually drags out a transfer window excruciatingly badly, they've got 3 signings over the line, probably a 4th. Don't be surprised if you see more.
They've also got rid of Danny Rose, and they managed to sell 1 foot. Yeah, 1 foot. They sold it for £13.5 million as well. So Levy working his magic again. Getting 13.5 million for that. But yeah, so you're going to say a thumbs up? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to show me a thumbs up
from
right
me?
Now?
Yeah, definitely.
I think going into the season and having this Kane business, unless it gets resolved this weekend, I think it's a real negative start to a season for Tottenham. And I think coming in with a new manager, this is exactly what they didn't want. I don't know. I'm interested to hear whether you think Kane's in the right here or not. He's trying to force this.
He's 27 years old, going on 28. I mean, if he doesn't leave Spurs now, when does he leave? I mean, they're not going to win the league this season. Even if he doesn't go, Man City will probably still win the league anyway, or United, Chelsea. Spurs are way, way, way down the pecking order. And, for a player of Harry Kane's caliber, he deserves to win trophies. You know, there's not many players these days that are the Steven Gerrard, Matt Letizia type who stay at one club. Kane's given them many, many years of service, you know, and it's just a shame that they haven't really been able to complement him in terms of the ability that surrounds him. You know, I mean, he has been relied upon as a talisman for Tottenham, and
But
it's just come to the end of the line for him at Tottenham, and I think you know they need to stand by, you know, the gentleman's agreement that Levy had with him when he wanted to leave the previous summer. Let him leave, and use the money wisely.
Yeah, I right or wrong, I don't know. I think the lines are blurred because I think
he's been very naive in signing a 6-year contract when you're at Tottenham and you possess that ability.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I'd go along with that.
Good window for Spurs.
No,
it's almost too early to say, right?
If Martinez comes in and shows the kind of form,
can you name another Argentinian forward who's done really well in the Premier League? Is he Argentinian? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you think of another Argentinian who's done really well in the Premier League?
Tevez, I think. Yeah,
that's one.
But that took a season.
Aguero, he's done really well.
Yeah.
So you're right, Clive. Yeah, you know what I just said. But yeah, at the moment, I think the jury's still out. I don't know if it is.
I think it could go either way. It really could go either way.
I do think Santo though is going to try and completely change the way they play. I think we're going to see it. I think over the last few seasons, we've seen a really exciting Tottenham team, especially from a neutral's point of view. If you watch Tottenham, it's usually a really good game, lots of goals. I think that might be over now.
It was under Poch, wasn't it?
I think it's going to be a lot more defensively structured.
He might go with those 3 centre-backs that he had at Wolves, right? He's got the boy Doherty there that he would have had before.
That's true, yeah. And obviously bringing in Romero as well. I feel like Spurs are going to go more defensive-minded for this season, at least.
But that is not the Tottenham way. That is not.
No,
certainly not. It's certainly not Nuno Espirito Santos's way either. I
don't know if he'll have a choice though, unless, like you said, he brings in Yaji. So, but we'll see. But yeah, so far I don't know about thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm going to go thumbs down. Get rid of Kane. That's painful. I'm sorry. That's.
Still getting rid of Kane, though, is it? It's a case of Kane demanding to leave.
Then it doesn't matter. It's still a bad transfer window. If you're losing anyone loses Harry Kane.
Levy has said the valuation starts at 2, right? And it clearly can't start at 2. I don't know where he
probably watched that Community Shield thinking that you can get a few more million for Kane now because City need a striker.
Yeah, desperate for a striker.
Yeah.
All right, then moving on. Clive, what do you make of Watford?
An interesting transfer window with Watford. I mean, we know what links they have with is it Getafe and Udinese. So I mean, they're linked with a lot of European agents. I mean, they've signed a midfielder. I mean, we know about all about what Danny Rose can do, and they've also signed Josh King as well. They've signed some interesting players. They've signed Imran Aluza from Nantes. They've also signed an interesting midfielder, Kuka, a Slovakian midfielder who was at Parma last season, who chips in with a few goals, 7 this season, just gone.
However, that was his most fruitful season. He scored 7 goals in the league. However, he's 34 years old, which is
I mean, they are going to need some kind. It's a little bit the way I look at it with Watford. I mean, could he be the Cambiasso that Leicester signed that season? I mean, he's a bit of an unknown. Yeah. But they do sign some strange players. I mean,
I've got to admit, looking at who they signed, who was on loan, the land of misfit toys. They just grab anyone and everyone.
The one that stands out for me of the ones that we don't know after Josh King and Danny Rose is that Juraj Kuka, who has had a decent last few seasons at Parma. He could be one to watch for them, and he could be interesting to see how his experience helps a relatively young Watford side there.
Yeah, they've also signed that Kwadwo Bar. Do you remember him? He was at Rochdale, powering down the wing. I think Manchester City were interested in. He's like an 18-year-old big beastie of a man, but
they've done this over the years. Watford, they have unearthed these diamonds, haven't they? If you look at Richarlison, and Corey, and these players, so I wouldn't put it past them. And if it does start to go wrong for Watford, they will just change their manager.
I guarantee they will change their manager. Guarantee it. More than Kane goes to City, I guarantee that there will be a new manager at Watford during this season.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, kind of an unknown for me. I can't really say a thumbs up, thumbs down. I mean, we'll see how they progress later in the season. I mean, they've signed Emmanuel Dennis as well from loan. I mean, there's just basically like, I think there's a case of Watford's like, let's just sign as many players as we can.
Seriously, I think they have a
one or two of them would be good.
They have a picture of all the players that are available throughout Europe.
Exactly.
And just throw a dart.
Yeah.
And just bring in as many as possible. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 new signings.
And that's
of which I'd say 3 will probably possibly see on the opening day Josh King, Danny Rose and Kudic.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to rely on Sarr, the striker that they have.
He's the striker.
To stand any chance of staying in the Premier League, which I'm not sure they will, if I'm being honest.
I think they're maybe the best equipped out of the 3 that have come up.
You think so?
Yeah. I think Josh King's a canny signing, actually. He's one that Brighton should have been linked to. I don't think we've got much.
Bitter.
They've still got and Sarr, and they'll do okay this season, Watford. They got the best defence in the Championship last season.
All right, let's move on then. West Ham.
West Ham, I mean, no signings really to note with West Ham. I mean, they can't get Jesse Lingard back by the sound of it, but I really, despite the fact that they've been very quiet so far in this transfer window, linked with Tammy Abraham, I really do fancy Ben Rama to kick on this season. I think he might, paper over the lack of transfer signings. There is rumours of a takeover at West Ham. I don't think that's going to help this transfer window for them. They've got European football this season. It's a thumbs down for me for the transfer window for them at the moment. Again, like a lot of other clubs, they've got rid of a lot of players. Philippe Anderson of note. I mean, they paid a lot of money for him. I think it was £40 million. He's gone to Lazio for a very small fee. They'll probably have a good season, finish 7th or 8th, but at the moment, no transfers of note for them.
But again, it's a case of not losing maybe their best player, right? So if you think of Rice being linked to one of the big 4, certainly Chelsea, I think they'd be happy to keep him. And as you say, after such a good season last year, I can see West Ham finishing there or thereabouts, same as last year.
They do rely on Antonio, though. He's not, and apparently he's got really dodgy hamstrings. That's what West Ham fans have been saying, and they haven't really brought anyone to help him out, or at least challenge for that place. They have been linked, though, just today to the boy from Fiorentina, the central defender, Milenkovic. That's a new one, apparently, £15 million. 6'5", apparently a really, really decent central defender. United were interested in him, I think, as well. So that's a shrewd sign from West Ham. But yeah, I still think they lack attacking options. I think they have a good attack, but depth, I don't think they have. And when you're playing in Europe, they're going to struggle, I think, in the Premier League. I think that's going to really affect their form. It's happened over and over, hasn't it? When we've seen teams go into the Europa League.
Yeah, and the consequence, isn't it?
Yeah, they falter in the Premier League. And I think that's going to happen for West Ham this season. I really do. All right, last team is Wolves. They've brought in Trincao from Barcelona.
Signing.
A good signing he is, but apparently a lot of people are talking about his strength. He looks like quite skinny, like he might not be able to cope with the strength of the Premier League. But we'll see. They've also brought in some players that I really don't know a lot about. Mosquero from Nacional. They've replaced the keeper. It's like for like, really. Patricio's gone out and Jose Sarr has come in, Portuguese keeper for a Portuguese keeper. However, Patricio has got something like 97 caps for Portugal and Sarr has 0. So, yeah, I know they've got a new manager who was managing at Benfica, right? So that's a very good fit for them, it seems. Being a Portuguese sort of team, but I don't think they're going to kick on this season. People think they will, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to struggle. I think they'll be, where did they finish last season? About 13th, was it? And I think they'll finish about the same this season as well. I know they're going to rely on Jimenez, but
Jimenez is back and he's looking sharp again. I mean, let's wait and see.
Really?
Let's hope he's the same player. Yeah.
I hope so, but I don't know if he will be.
Well, I mean, time will tell. But I mean, I think there was that Tottenham player who was playing for Hull. What was his name? There's been a few players that have had skull injuries and head injuries and had to stop playing. I mean, Jimenez.
Oh, it was the manager, wasn't he, last year?
Yeah.
Forgotten his name as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how irrelevant he is to Tottenham's recent history.
So, Wolves last year finished 13th. So to be honest, I expect them to finish about the
done well
in the same
back
place
from
this
it.
time.
And I think if there was any risk to him playing, I don't think he'd be playing. It's not like he's had a knee injury or anything. I think it's just a case of, is it dangerous or not for him?
And he's going to be wearing the headband.
Yeah, he's got to wear the headband, But I mean, playing as a striker as Jimenez, I mean, he's not scared of getting his head on the end of a cross. And
maybe he should be.
If there was any danger in him not playing again, I don't think he would be. So I think we might take him a few games just to get his fitness back. But in terms of his sharpness, I don't think that'll be lacking.
If Kane does eventually go to City, do you think that Santo will be interested in bringing Raul Jimenez from Wolves over to Spurs? If it's possible, what do you think?
I don't think it'll happen this season. I think if it does happen, you'll be looking at next season maybe, because obviously the jury is out on that head injury. So let's see.
It's a big year, isn't it, for the winger, Traore?
Yeah.
So I think 2 years ago he looked like he was going to go somewhere, and then he had a bit of a sort of patchy last season. Went to the Euros.
Yeah, I think last season Wolves were hindered, but him especially, by not having Jimenez up front as a target man.
Yeah.
There was really no one there for him to work off or work with.
They'll save an absolute fortune on Vaseline if he does leave.
Take that as you will. All right then, good analysis, chaps. Out of all the teams that we've just mentioned, is there any that stand out in terms of a really, really strong, positive transfer window so far?
I'd say Villa. Because I think considering that they've lost their best player and they've come out of it smelling the roses, really, and strengthened all over the park and made a profit on it as those
strategy there. Decent strategy. Signing Leon Bailey, signing Ings, signing Buendia. Yeah. Those are some quality.
I think for value, Villa. How in terms of quality, if they do get Kane, how can you beat a transfer window where you have Jack Grealish and Harry Kane coming to your club? So I think if that does happen, forget the price. City have done really well in this transfer window. In terms of teams that haven't done very well, of note, let's have a look. Probably Southampton right now.
It's Southampton and Burnley. I mean, I worry about them next season. And I don't know, Brentford just looked like a team with Ivan Toney who's just good. They're just going to go for it.
Yeah, I think they've got nothing to lose. They've got nothing to lose. So
they're going to play the same way in the
freedom football,
Premier
five
League,
at the back. Yeah. So
yeah.
All right, chap, shall we wrap this up? All right. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Halftime Oranges. Over the next few days, we're going to formulate our predictions, who we think will finish where in the Premier League from first all the way down to 20th. So join us for that episode. But for now, it's bye-bye from me, bye-bye from Stefan.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Say goodbye to you all.
Cheers.
Adios, amigos. Bye-bye.
Bye.